Holiday season and another chance to talk with MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy. And, sir, fall sports all done, pretty much in the books now. Now it's winter sports season, but we have a lot to still get to from the fall season. First, how's everything going for you?
Yeah, it's great. I actually I'm 2 weeks away from knee surgery. I had knee replacement surgery right after Thanksgiving, and uh, was out about 10 days, and things are going well. I had the first one done in July. I'll tell everyone out there listening, the second knee replacement surgery is a lot easier. So if you need two of them, get through the first one. The second one's a lot better. But yeah, things are going well for me, and looking forward to Christmas and having a few days away and being with family and friends. And it's a fun time of year.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and jump right into some of the fall sports stuff, some maybe housekeeping stuff, if you will, but also some important housekeeping. Washburn soccer team. What a run for that women's soccer program, making to the national championship game. Just another good showing from an MIAA program on the national level.
Yeah, Washburn had certainly a record-setting season. They won our regular season women's soccer championship. They did not win the conference tournament that we held down in Wichita, but they were able to get a number one seed and hosted during regionals, and made a great run in the postseason. Great defense, great goalkeeping. Finished national runner-up, losing a tough 1-0 match to Point Loma out of San Diego. But Chris, the thing I think about when I watch Washburn on this run, they pretty young team. They've got two seniors, their goalkeeper and one of their forwards, but the team is really loaded with underclassmen, especially juniors. They've got 11 juniors that'll be back next year, including two All-Americans. So expect to continue to see great things from Washburn. But heck of a season, and a roster, Chris, dominated by local young women. 15 student athletes on the roster from the state of Kansas. I think another 10 student athletes on that roster from Nebraska, Oklahoma, or Missouri. So, really a local group of student athletes that came together and had a unbelievable, remarkable season this year.
You talk about seeing Washburn make this run too, and Central Missouri has been one of the top soccer programs too. It just kind of shows you how good the conference is across other sports besides maybe football and men's and women's basketball. You see domination at the national level, and how good the conference is. Like you said, they didn't win the conference tournament.
Right. 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I think it was, we had, Rogers State finished third in our conference and then went and won a national title in softball. So, it continues to be a theme throughout our conference. I think that the tough competition that you play in the MIAA week in, week out, no matter the sport, prepares you for regional play. You want to play as a coach, as a student athlete. You want to play against the best. You want to test yourself every game, and you want to go up against the best to measure where you're at, how well you're doing, and we do that in just about every sport. And yeah, Washburn, Central Missouri, Emporia State, a lot of University of Central Oklahoma, Northeastern State, a lot of great women's soccer programs historically. Pitt State will be adding women's soccer starting next year. The conference, I think, is just going to continue to get stronger. And but like I said, Washburn, great season this year, and certainly seems to have a roster coming back that will allow them to make another run next season.
Moving from soccer to football, and all the MIAA schools are out of the postseason, and now we're down to the national championship. But Central Missouri quarterback Zach Zabrowski winning the Harlon Hill. That's an amazing. Basically, if people don't know what the Harlon Hill is, that's basically the Heisman of Division II football. And an incredible honor, incredible moment for the Central Missouri quarterback.
Yeah, I think think this is the 6th time that the MIAA has won the Harlon Hill Award. Pittsburgh State took that home in the early 90s a couple of times. Truman State had a running back in the mid 90s. Brian Shea from Emporia State in the late 90s won the Harlon Hill. And then UCM had another quarterback in 2010 that won the Harlon Hill. So, it's a great honor, great recognition for both UCM and the MIAA to win this type of individual award. I'm so happy for Zach, and he's only a junior, and he's already announced that
Yep.
he's coming back to UCM next year for his senior season. A young man from Minnesota, and really an interesting story. I think his first 2 years of college football, he was at Southern Illinois and got in a few snaps each season, but really wanted to go someplace where he could show what he had. His dad, Chris, is the new offensive coordinator at the University of Kansas. Just got elevated into that position. The past couple of years Jim Zabrowski has been serving as the quarterbacks coach. So now the offensive coordinator. And I know Zach has mentioned a few times how much that means to him that he gets to play college football on Saturday in a location that his dad is able to get over and watch a few of his games. I think he made it to 3 games this year. And Zach's mom obviously was able to get over for all of his games, but just what a great year. A 1-point loss in the second round of the playoffs to Harding, that's playing for the national title on Saturday. And individually, Zach, more than 5,000 yards, Chris, 61 touchdown passes, and only 5 interceptions. So I think that's a pretty good season.
I'll add to a couple of stats too. Points responsible for about 29.2 points per game. He was number 2 in the nation in completions per game. But like you said, number 1 in the nation, passing yards, touchdowns. He's happy to come back next year. I don't know if the rest of the league is going to be necessarily happy to see him back in next year, but it's good for the MIAA. Good for Coach Lamberson down there in Warrensburg, and of course for Central Missouri Mules too.
Yeah, and I know if Zach was on here, he'd say that, Chris, this is an award that recognizes everybody on that UCM offense, especially the offensive line, the running backs, the tight end, the wide receivers, the coaches. It's certainly a recognition for Zach, but Zach and others that are around the UCM program know that it's really a team recognition that UCM this year had that kind of an offensive season. That their quarterback is able to go and receive this award on behalf of UCM having such a great year.
Absolutely. Zach Zabrowski, the Harlon Hill winner. MIAA getting another national top honor. Central Missouri quarterback Zach Zabrowski bringing that home. So congratulations to him. Before we get into other football news, you were talking about it before we came on the air here. NCAA, I believe it's Woman of the Year award, or that at least one from the MIAA that's up for possibly having that honor too.
Yeah, another great recognition for the association. We found out about 10 days ago that the NCAA Woman of the Year award that will be celebrated at the NCAA convention in Phoenix in January, that an MIAA student athlete has been selected as one of the 9 finalists. And this is the top award that the NCAA recognizes their top female scholar, athlete, leader. It's a lot of different criteria that go into selecting their Woman of the Year. It's one award that recognizes all 3 divisions. So each division has 3 finalists, 9 finalists total. It starts with a group of nominations. I think there were about 620 nominations from all 3 divisions that came in. And this year, of the 9 finalists that will be celebrated in Phoenix, Maddie Wolfcotter, MIAA pole vaulter from UCM, is one of those finalists. Maddie had a really decorated career at UCM as a pole vaulter, first team All-American, 4 times. She finished in the top 4 in the nation at either indoor or outdoor track in pole vaulting. And she was one of our Kinby Jones finalists for our top MIAA male and female student athlete. And Maddie, student, great academic record, great student athlete, very committed to her community in Warrensburg, volunteers in a number of activities, including coaching and mentoring youth in Warrensburg. So Maddie, obviously a very deserving candidate, and it's great that the MIAA and UCM has once again this year a finalist for such a prestigious award.
Absolutely. The honors keep coming in for the MIAA, and the individuals are in the conference as well. All right, let's get into this football week 0 survey that you sent me earlier this week, and kind of looking at the numbers. I don't know where you want to start with this, but there's a lot to kind of take away from it as well. I don't know if you want to kind of lay it out here and kind of explain who it took the survey, and we can go from there.
Yeah, well, as you know, Chris, the MIAA is one of 5 conferences that have sponsored legislation to be considered at this year's NCAA convention, where we would add a week at the beginning of the schedule, permissive legislation. If schools want to, in essence, have 12 weeks to play 11 football games, they could do that and have that flexibility in scheduling that would allow our student athletes at some point during the year to actually have a week off. And, surprisingly, in Division II, it's the only division of any division in the NCAA and only division in the NAIA that doesn't have more weeks in its season than the maximum number of games you could schedule. Every other organization or division has that bye week or off week. And so we thought it was important that we sponsor this proposal. I think it's going to be a close vote at the convention. Unfortunately, the Management Council and the President's Council in Division II have come out against that proposal. And they've cited a few reasons that I certainly disagree with. And maybe my biggest concern is a number of people voting on that position are at institutions that don't sponsor football. So we started to brainstorm on ways that we can actually talk to football student athletes. And we asked the American Football Coaches Association if they'd be willing to help us. And they said, absolutely. This is a proposal that the AFCA, the Coaches Association, is very supportive of. So the AFCA a few weeks ago helped develop a survey, and they were able to communicate with all of the Division II coaches in the AFCA to send a link that would allow coaches to share that survey with their student athletes, to allow the football student athlete voice to be heard on what do our football student athletes want? What do they think? I think that's probably a pretty important consideration as we vote on this proposal, to know what our football student athletes think. And so far, the response has been pretty good, Chris. We have the survey open through Friday close of business. So we have about 48 hours still to collect some survey results. I guess by the time this podcast is released, maybe just a few hours to get survey results in. But our coaches are still making sure that they're reminding student athletes, here's the link, here, short survey, easy to do, easy to complete, let your voice be heard. And so far we're over 2,500 responses, which represents somewhere between 15% and 20% of total Division II football student athletes in Division II. So, we'd like to see that number get higher, but certainly when you're thinking about a survey instrument that's statistically relevant, when you're up in the 15 to 20% response rate of a population, you've got data that you can rely on as statistically significant. And certainly the responses we're seeing, Chris, coming in from a lot of first year and second year football student athletes, and that would make sense. These are the football student athletes that are going to be on Division II campuses the next 2 or 3 years. So This is something they care a lot about. They'd like to have a point in the season where they have an off week, a bye week for rest and recovery, and they understand the benefits of a schedule that would allow some greater flexibility on when their games get played and who they can play against.
Kind of looking through some of the results so far, and like you said, they're still open, everything, but it's been overwhelmingly yes. I think the last check that I have, it was over 82% that were in favor of week 0, or I guess it's been. Sorry, let me correct that. It's been explained to them that it's what it is, and they understand what it is. That they're understanding what's going on. 93% is saying they would support the passage of legislation. That's right. Correct there. Yes.
Yeah. 99
saying
yeah. Over 93%. Right, Chris. 93% of those 2,500 that have answered so far are saying, yes, we understand it. We know what this means. We know what it does for both the program, our school, and student athletes to play football. And 93% of us support it. We want it. So, and the thing about the responses, Chris, when you look at every conference has responded, the football coaches are doing what the American Football Coaches Association has asked, and get this to your student athletes. So, every conference is not going to vote in favor of this. So we've got conferences that are against this, pushing this to student athletes that I'm guessing are saying they're in favor of it, which is a little bit of a disconnect. But of the conferences that have responded, four of the 5 that have provided the most responses are from conferences that didn't sponsor the legislation. The GLIAC, the Great Lakes Valley Conference, the Great Midwest Athletic Conference, and the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference are 4 of the 5 that are leading the way in their conference response rate. So we're seeing all conferences step up and provide an opportunity for input, and that's what we wanted. The data is what the data is. I just wanted to make sure we had an opportunity for the voice of the Division II football student athlete to be heard, and this is the only way that happens, through the help of the AFCA. And frankly, I hope a lot of my colleagues around Division II believe that the voice of football student athletes should matter on a football vote. And this is what they're saying. 93% of them support the week 0 proposal.
One of the other questions I found it kind of interesting here. Were they aware that Division II is the only division that does not have a scheduling model that allows for a bye week or break during the regular season, 11 weeks to play 11 games? At this point, 64% knew about it, but more than 35% didn't realize that Division II was the only one that didn't have a break either. That seemed kind of surprising. Either that, or maybe they were surprised too that, wait a second, why are we the only ones not with a break in the middle of the season?
Yeah, I would think that that's played a lot into why 93% of Division II football student athletes are saying we want week 0, is because they're finding out, at least a third of them are finding out for the first time, that they're the only student athletes in all of college football, NAIA or NCAA, that doesn't have that break at some point during the season for physical recovery, for mental recovery, mental health recovery, for rest, Division II is without that. And so I think that probably has played a lot into why so many of those football student athletes are saying that they're in favor of week 0.
And again, it's not adding a week to the end of the season. It's just pushing, I guess it's stretching things out earlier in the year to add that, again, week 0. It's not like you're pushing the regular season, to the third week in November. It would be still the same ending date, roughly, on wherever the calendar falls. So it's not doing anything to the back end of the schedule at all.
Right. And, some of the people against this proposal have said, well, let's just fix the back end. Let's start the playoffs a week later, or let's start the national championship game a week later or 2 weeks later. And, let's just fix it that way. And that way, not everybody has to start the season early. And I think that's flawed rationale, Chris. This is a change that needs to happen right now. And it can happen right now through this legislative vote in January to fix the back end of the schedule. There's a lot of people that are going to have to say, yeah, we'll do that. First of all, the football championship in McKinney, Texas, has a contract. There's a new bid process out for schools or communities that want to host a championship, but it's tied to the current date. So, at some point, contracts would have to be broken. Communities would have to say, yes, our facility is available a week later or 2 weeks later. And all of that doesn't happen until our broadcast partner, ESPN, says that, yeah, we have a window that we'd be willing to show the national championship game a week later or 2 weeks later than when it's set now. That's a 2, 3, 4 year process. If that happens, great. Then maybe we have a solution that would allow us to then come back and revisit when the season starts, and maybe move the season back when it starts. But until that happens, this is really the only reasonable remedy. Let's fix it now. Let's work on the back end issue. And if that someday gets addressed, then we can go back and adjust the start of the season if that's what people want to do.
I'll end this on this question. When you've got 93% of respondents so far saying they agree with week 0, and when we get to January and the vote happens, and for whatever reason they vote it down, does that send a message a little bit to the student athletes that we saw the survey, but we still already had this made up of what we're going to do?
Yeah, if that happens, I'm going to feel sorry for our football student athletes. I mean, we're a division that talks a lot about the voice of the student athlete. We care what the student athlete has to say. We want to know their opinion on issues. It's important to have them at the table or involved in the process to find out what they want. Here's our chance, Division II. The American Football Coaches Association is giving you those survey results. They're giving you the data. They are asking student athletes, how do you feel about this? They're telling us overwhelmingly, 93% right now, that they want week 0 to be approved. So now's the division's chance, put up or shut up. A real big moment, I think, Chris, in January for the Division II membership to really answer that question. How much do we value the voice of football student athletes and what they say about this important piece of legislation?
I believe the national convention is, just about a month out, I think. January 10th to the 13th, if I have those dates right.
That's right.
Well, at least the vote will happen in Phoenix. Nice weather.
Yeah, that's right. We'll be able to enjoy some sunshine, and hopefully we'll get some good news that will add some relief on scheduling issues in football and provide some relief for our football student athletes during a very grueling season. You understand what MIAA football's like week in, week out, the mental challenges, the physical stress, and our student athletes deserve at some point during the season to be able to step away and recover. And this legislation will make that happen.
Just a month away from the vote happening at the NCAA 2024 National Convention. MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, thank you as always for the time.
You bet, Chris. Good to see you. Merry Christmas. Hope everyone out there watching has a great holiday, great new year, and looking forward to 2024.